You're listening to the Chopped Podcast, episode number 23. Love it! Hey everyone, I'm Marley of the blog Namely Marley. Thanks for joining me today for the 23rd episode of the Chopped Podcast. This is the podcast designed for people just like you, bloggers who love food. Each week I'm sharing interviews, thoughts, and stories, everything related to food blogging so that we can all learn together about what works with food blogging and even a little bit about what doesn't. Today's guest is Nicole Johnson of the site, Or Whatever You Do. Nicole and I are talking about the blogging tool, CoSchedule. Now, Nicole works for CoSchedule. She's one of their blogger community managers, but she has her own food blog and she also uses CoSchedule. And I know a lot of food bloggers use CoSchedule, including myself, and others of you are curious. So if you're currently using CoSchedule or not, you'll find some great tips in today's podcast about organizing your blog posts and editorial calendars and social media sharing. And just so you know, CoSchedule also has a standalone calendar, so you don't even have to have WordPress to use it. And there's even an integration with Evernote and Google Docs that's been added as well. Running your own business is hard work, so knowing what tools are available to make your job easier is so important. Also, Nicole talks about how she first started her food blog and then began using CoSchedule and loved it so much that she reached out to the team and now she's working for them. So I thought it was kind of a great example of how you can take your food blog and leverage that to bring in additional sources of revenue. So that's kind of cool stuff. Okay, before we move on to that interview, don't forget to mark your calendars for October 15th through the 16th for the Chopped Conference. The conference is going to be here before you know it, and there's so many exciting things happening. I don't want you to miss it. On Thursday, October 15th, we'll have the Food Blog Success Summit. Think mastermind session focused on food blogging with some awesome folks like Tessa Arias of the site Handle the Heat. And we're also going to be having a food photography workshop with the talented Matt Armandaris. I'm so excited about that. And then Thursday night, we'll have the Chopped Con welcome party. It's going to be hosted by some of your favorite Kansas City food bloggers like Kristen Doyle of the site Dine and Dish, Allie E. Bright of Gimme Some Oven, Bev Widener of Bev Cooks, and Catherine Taylor of the site Cookie and Kate. That is going to be one awesome party. I can't wait. And then, of course, there's Chopped Conference on Friday. So come hang out with me and a bunch of awesome food blogging friends. Trust me, this is more than a food blogging conference. It's an opportunity to be with like-minded people in a super cool environment. We'll all be there together, collaborating, networking, learning, and just having a lot of fun. Let's go straight to that interview with Nicole. Today's intro shout out is to Gary Lum of the site Yummy Lummy. Gary said he was listening to the Chopped Podcast while eating chocolate. Hey, I do that too, Gary. So what are you doing while listening to the Chopped Podcast? Send me a shout out on Twitter or Instagram using #ChoppedCon, and maybe I'll feature you and your site in an upcoming episode. But for today, in honor of Gary, everybody settle into your favorite chair, get out your favorite chocolate, and turn up the volume, and let's talk about all things food blogging and so much more. Hey everyone, I'm so excited to have Nicole Johnson of the site Or Whatever You Do on the show today. Nicole, welcome to the Chopped Podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm so glad to have you. And you have a food blog where you provide delicious recipes and photographs and even some food blogging tips. And I know that you have some awesome social media sharing strategies, and that's what I'm really looking forward to talking with you about today. But first, can you describe for everyone what caused you to start a food blog?
Well, I was a stay-at-home mom with 4 kids that were 5 and under, and I really needed something that was my own to do besides chasing kids and bossing people around all day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it started from.
That's very good. So now you've got other people to boss around besides the kids, right? Make the recipe this way.
Absolutely.
So did you have an interest in cooking before that, or?
I did. I had an interest in cooking, and being home all day really let me explore that more.
So I see. So being home with the kids, I'm sure you're probably, in the kitchen cooking a lot. And so then you think, well, why not just start a blog, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's been your favorite part about food blogging so far?
I love the relationships that I've made with other bloggers. It's really opened up some great doors, and I've met some really fascinating people.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Is there anything about food blogging you don't like so much?
Um, I think some competitiveness is a little bit over the top sometimes. I think there's plenty of room for all of us, and so I like to kind of foster a working together instead of working against each other attitude with the people I connect with.
I love that mentality as well because I agree. We have so much to gain from working together when we can find those opportunities, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think so as well.
Excellent. Well, one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on the show today was to talk about social media sharing strategies, and particularly as it relates to CoSchedule, but in other ways as well. And I know that you really have got a good strategy going. I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
Sure, I would love to. I am a customer success agent at CoSchedule, and I've been working with them since last August. I was actually a CoSchedule user before I started working there, and I was such a huge fan of the tool, and it had completely changed the way I blogged. So I wrote into the co-founder Garrett and just kind of pitched him on hiring me, and it was great timing, and I came on the team, and it's been a whirlwind ever since.
Well,
Um,
that's an interesting outcome for a food blog is that it exposes you to some of these I don't know software kind of tools, and I never would have thought to like reach out and say I love your product so much. I'd love to work with you. Is that what you kind of did?
that is, and it was really odd
Wow.
because I was really not looking for a job. I hadn't been actually employed outside of my own blog for like 10 years. So it was a huge change, but it's been so rewarding and so fun to be on such a awesome team.
And so you work from home for them.
I do. They are based in
That's great.
Bismarck, and I am near Seattle.
Well, Bismarck, my husband's parents are from Bismarck. How cool.
It's very neat. You don't find very many tech startups in the
No.
Midwest, and they are doing such a great job of it.
That's really cool. I think I just hope that that's a good story for everybody to hear that sometimes your food blog can kind of just expand your horizons. You may not have ever anticipated doing something like this.
It sure can. It's a really great avenue to get involved in the social media world.
That's very cool. And can we kind of talk for just a second about like, your role with CoSchedule? And I want to clarify for everybody listening that this is not a sponsored post from CoSchedule. I just happened to, I recently started using it myself, and I have really liked the tool too. And I found it to be really helpful. And so that's why I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk with different people who are super users of some of these different tools that are available for food bloggers. So that leads me to my question, which is, what is your role? You kind of answer questions that food bloggers might have, so it's like you're like a liaison with food bloggers?
I'm actually frontline support, so I answer a lot of the incoming support emails, and I monitor the social media channels for support requests there as well.
So let's talk a little bit about how you use CoSchedule. One of the reasons it sounds like became a super user and very excited about it in the first place. So I actually thought we could create a scenario. Let's imagine that you've got an idea for a new recipe, like you just got this great guacamole that you want to share with everybody. What does your workflow look like as far as using CoSchedule?
My workflow is really simple. I go into my CoSchedule calendar and I create a draft on my calendar and enter in the information. So, guacamole post. I start out really, really generic so I can kind of flesh out the idea. And then anytime I want, I can go in and edit that post. I create social media messages before I even write the post most times. I use a headline analyzer tool to kind of craft a headline that I think is going to receive the most social shares and the most attention. And I can plan out my content like weeks in advance, which is really great for working with sponsored posts and deadlines and having ideas to work from and not just having to start from scratch when you want to write a post.
Well, that's one of the things I thought was pretty awesome about CoSchedule is that I have been working for a long time to try to develop I guess, an editorial calendar, and I created a spreadsheet because I love spreadsheets myself, and I created a
Mm-hmm.
spreadsheet, and then I tried working with Google Calendar, and it just everything felt really cumbersome. Like it felt like I was spending more time on the tool than I was on creating the content.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really think CoSchedule excels at is the direct integration with your blogs. So your blog posts are automatically on your calendar, your social media, and the blog posts are all in one place. There's a really great notes and tasks section that I use a lot for keeping track of different details about sponsored work, different links that I need to keep track of. If you have contributors to your blog, it is a really great tool to use because you can set up different users and they can all contribute posts and schedule social media for your blog.
Yeah, that's very nice. I mean, I don't currently have that myself, but I know that that setup is there that you can have somebody else and communicate, actually via the tool. That's pretty cool.
I use a lot of the features that are kind of geared towards teams for myself on my solo blog to keep track
Okay,
of different information as well.
tell me how you do that. That sounds really cool.
Well, if you do any sponsored work, you know that there's about a million details you have to remember for
Exactly.
everyone. And
Yes.
I have a hard time sometimes keeping them all straight. So I'll take links to Google documents and stick those right in the notes section of the blog post itself. I'll copy and paste different links or different verbiage that we need or required hashtags, and I can put those in a notes section. If there's a specific deadline to submit a draft, I can put those as a task that's attached to the blog post, so it'll be on the calendar and a visual reminder that this is due at that time and this is what's required and this is where to send it. And I don't have to keep toggling back and forth to the different email and the different companies that I work with, and it's all in one place, which is so helpful for me.
That's great. And would you ever consider having someone from the sponsored team be one of your contributors so they can see what's going on behind the scenes or not?
That hasn't been something that has been requested of me yet, but I would definitely consider it depending on the situation.
Yeah, that's very cool then. And so the cool thing then is like CoSchedule really is like an editorial calendar on your blog because you go and you sign in, and just so you know, it is an actual plugin for those people who are not familiar with CoSchedule. It actually is a plugin that you add to your blog, and so it's kind of like all integrated, and you can click on different blog posts, and you can actually even see after the fact how many times it's been shared via social media. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool to be able to track all that together in your WordPress dashboard.
Yeah. So how about the integration with the different social media sites? So can you talk a little bit about those?
Sure. We integrate with Facebook profiles, Facebook pages, and Facebook groups that you have admin access to. We integrate with Twitter, with Google Plus via Buffer. We integrate with Tumblr, and we also integrate with Buffer so that if you already are a Buffer user, you can send social media posts right to your Buffer queue as well.
That's great. So what would be the advantage of doing? I noticed that was there, and I don't use that, and I'm curious what would be the advantage of I created a post and I share it to Buffer so that it goes out, because it's some of the same places, Twitter, Instagram, or not Instagram, I'm sorry, Twitter and Google Plus and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it really just depends on your workflow. Some of our users choose to send they send outside content to Buffer, and then Buffer will space it out for them if they're sharing a lot of outside content.
I see.
Some people send all of their posts over to Buffer. It's really depends on your specific workflow. I typically keep my content within CoSchedule itself, but it's really nice to have that option there in case you have your Buffer queue set up in a specific schedule for your needs.
So I know that you get to see some of the behind the scenes kind of things, and I know that you would never mention anybody's name in particular, but I'm just curious, in the aggregate, what are some of the creative uses that you've seen from others using CoSchedule?
I've seen some really great teamwork going on, back and forth and fleshing out blog post ideas and fleshing out kind of content marketing strategies via the comment system. That's really helped teams stay on the same page with their content marketing.
That's so important too, because everybody's got to know what's happening. Especially if you've got more than one person. A lot of people will have virtual assistants, and to be able to have that kind of communication going on is really important.
Absolutely, I agree. I've also seen some really great tasks that are set up. Some people will set up their entire content marketing post-production plan as tasks, so they can just go through and tick it off as they go along, so they know how far along in the process each blog post is, so they can have several going at the same time and have those totally organized.
Well, now see, I think that's very interesting, because right now what I have file names. I have a Mac, and so I'm able to go through after the post is published. And now through CoSchedule, I can make sure that the shares are out there. But then I want to make sure I get it to Food Gawker, and sometimes that falls off my list and I don't get to it for a while. But I go through and visually highlight the file name to purple or whatever to help me know that I've actually done that. Or if I haven't done it, I go back and do it eventually. So that's it. So you're saying that could be something we could do from within CoSchedule?
Definitely.
Interesting. So you set it up as a task, and then you can go through and just click it off?
Yep.
Oh,
exactly.
I love that. Okay, so I create a task that says share to Food Gawker, share to Taste Spotting, share to Finding Vegan, share to whatever. It's what these sites that, are really good at just highlighting different food recipes. That's the way to do that.
It is, and it's very helpful to keep track of that so you know which ones you've shared, because a lot of times my photos will get rejected the first time from some of those networks.
Yeah.
And I don't often remember which I've submitted a second time to, what I need to go back and redo again.
So you just keep track of all that inside a CoSchedule?
I do. And there's some Facebook groups now that I participate in that I'm not an admin on, and I will go in and make a note or create a task to remind myself to go in and manually share something to that group.
I see. Okay, that's very good. Especially anything related to that post that you can think of, whether it's I mentioned somebody and I want to send them an email afterwards or whatever. You want to do all of that within CoSchedule.
Yes, I definitely recommend that.
I love clicking off boxes. So if you're telling me this tool provides boxes for me to click off, I'm all over that.
We also do color coding, which has been really helpful for me. I try to code all of my sponsored work with one color, all of my regular content with another, so I can look really quickly at my calendar and see if I'm maybe needing a little bit different of a mix with things.
Oh, that's really good. And you know this because you and I corresponded about this, but one of the mistakes I made early on is that CoSchedule gives you the opportunity to share your post out, and even before it's published, you have it scheduled to be shared out, and you can do either an image or not an image.
A link.
Yes, a link, or yes, a link with an image. And one of the first things that I did wrong was I scheduled everything out, and then it went out without a link, and I was a little bit frustrated, but it was all user error on my part. And so that's a good thing to kind of keep track of, is whether you're sharing an image or not an image.
Yes, most definitely. Also, one thing to really take note of when you're first getting started is the status of your blog posts and social messages. The only messages and blog posts that will ever actually be published need to be marked as scheduled in the draft or in the status section. So you can have blog posts on your calendar that are in draft status and they won't publish. So you can have ideas that are living on your calendar, and you don't have to worry about anything being published accidentally.
I see. So if I have this, like we were talking about earlier, I had this idea for this great pineapple guacamole, and I can go ahead and put that as a draft on CoSchedule. And that will actually create a draft in my WordPress blog.
It will, yes.
But until I go into that post itself and then actually confirm it as scheduled, it's not going to get published.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to
Correct.
know. Good to know. Mm-hmm. No reason to freak out. You can then you could like feel relaxed to use CoSchedule as you need to.
Yes, it's a very good kind of like a fail safe, so nothing publishes accidentally.
And then you can also move things around. So as maybe that recipe took a little longer to develop than you thought it was going to, and so you move it around however you need to.
Yeah, it's very convenient because you can just drag and drop it, and that was the huge thing for me when I first started using the tool, was that the drag and drop functionality, because that is just, it was unheard of to me at the time in this application. Like social media messages, I can just drag those, reschedule. Yeah. I'm like, what?
So you're saying from the calendar itself, I can just, like, let's say I've got that guacamole, it's scheduled, but I decided to move it because, I didn't have it ready. I can just click on it and just drag it to a different date?
You can, and any messages that are associated with that blog post are just going to automatically move with it.
I just think food blogging is so much work, and I know everybody listening will get this. They understand there's so much going on, so why not use tools like this that can help you? I just think, I think we all have the syndrome of trying to do everything ourselves, but why not have, tools available that can make that easier?
I agree. I'm been really busy the last few months especially, and have not had the time I would like to devote to my actual blog, but even on a very limited schedule, just kind of blogging whenever I have a spare minute or in the evenings or on my days off. I had the biggest month I've ever had in April, which is...
Wow, that's great.
I think entirely because of scheduling and planning and the social media marketing I'm able to do via CoSchedule.
So do you think that biggest month was a result of the fact that you can have two ways of blogging. Some people will just post whenever, and others post on a schedule. And it seems to me like posting on a schedule gets your readers accustomed to that. Do you think that was part of it?
I think posting on a schedule is very important. It isn't something I've been able to do the last several months because of my time constrictions. But so I don't think that's necessarily what contributed to my personal biggest month. But I think that's a very good practice to put into place in general.
A lot of bloggers are... I say a lot of bloggers, I don't know this exactly science, but from what I've heard, it seems like they're hesitant to overshare. CoSchedule is, I've actually seen some posts on your site talking about the importance of, is repetitive sharing the word that you guys use?
We recommend a drip campaign.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And tell me more about that.
Well, food blogging especially is just by nature evergreen content. It's just full of content that's always relevant. Unless you're posting exclusively, like Easter recipes aren't necessarily something you'd want to market in November.
Right.
But typically recipes are going to be relevant all year long. And you have a lot of old posts in your archives that maybe aren't getting the attention that they deserve. And it's really easy to go through and schedule social shares of those old posts using CoSchedule. We have a really great top posts section that will list like your top 10 posts most popular in the last year by you in the last 30 days. There's different filters you can apply to that. And right on that one page, you can go through and schedule social messages to Twitter and Facebook and Google Plus and Tumblr and LinkedIn. And it's going to get that old content in front of new eyes, which really helps to bring more traffic.
You just blew my mind. Are you saying that you could use CoSchedule to share out old content?
Oh, yeah. Most definitely.
Hello. I haven't even been doing that. How does that work?
You are going to love the top post page then.
I've been to it, but I actually noticed that it seemed to only go into the posts that I have done recently. So I just thought, oh, well, starting from this point forward.
Mm-hmm.
But no. Okay.
You can do all the old posts as well. And if you create a message right on your calendar, if you click on the little pencil icon, mm-hmm. and then select social message, there's also an option right there to share old post, and it will also bring up a list of your previously published content for you to pick from and schedule messages to.
Wow, that's even more powerful then, because we have actually been going through old posts and updating some of the photos. I mean, some of the photos from our old posts are good, but there are a lot of horizontal, and so we've been trying to update some of those old photos. And as we do that, resharing them, and to be able to do that straight from CoSchedule is going to be great.
Yeah, you can also set up tasks on those old posts and set yourself up so that if you want to update the photos once a week on an old post, you'll have a schedule and know what posts you're updating this week. And
now, as far as the statistics that show on those old posts, I assume those are going to be only, in other words, CoSchedule tracks the amount of shares that go out by post, but it will probably only track the ones that have, since it's been shared on CoSchedule?
Well, the social sharing analytics that we pull it's tracking how many times the link to that specific blog post has been shared. So it's not actually specific to CoSchedule shares. It's gathering information about anyone that's posted that specific link. It's tracking,
and it's tracking it on those social media sites that you have, like we just talked about, LinkedIn or
Yep.
Twitter, right?
Yep.
So, for example, if it was shared a lot on StumbleUpon, that wouldn't be one that you would track?
Yes, that isn't one that we can pull information from.
But still, it's great data, and I think actually as it helps me even planning new content, because when I go to that top post page, I'm able to look at that and say, okay, that my sweet potato veggie burger has done very well. I think I should probably do either some more sweet potato recipes or some more veggie burgers.
Yeah, it can be really great for planning future content to see what posts in your archives are doing the best.
Excellent. And you guys have provided some really great training videos. Are those available publicly, or do you have to be a member of CoSchedule to see those?
They are. They're available for anyone. They're
Okay.
right in the app. .coschedule.com, but you don't even have to have a blog connected to watch those videos.
Okay.
And they're also available on our help pages at coschedule.com/help.
Great. I'll leave links in the show notes page to those, because I think they're really helpful, especially if you have questions or if you're new to it. It's really very helpful about sharing.
The videos are really great bites of information that will answer almost all of the common questions that people have when they get started.
That's great. So do you have any other just sharing tips in general?
I think having a plan and sticking to it is so important when you're in the long haul of blogging. It's been quite a while since I started doing this, and I can't even express the progress I've made since I've started getting serious about marketing my material.
And what does that mean when you say have a plan and sticking to it? What I hear when you say that is consistency, like for example, Instagram would be one where you might say to yourself, I'm going to post something every day, or Facebook would be another one where, I'm going to have a post every day. Is that what you're kind of talking about?
Definitely. And just making sure that you're always learning and always growing. There's so much information out there about great content marketing practices. And I think food bloggers in general kind of focus in on our little corner of content marketing. And there's a vast world of information out there that can be applied to us as well.
So don't get stuck in a rut. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Expand your horizons and in your learning beyond just food blog related topics. Look for some great content marketing sources. We have a great blog, and there's a lot of blogs out there that are doing some awesome work and putting together some awesome statistics and information about what's working, the current trends, what you should be doing, what you should stop doing right now.
Yeah. What's an example of something you should stop doing?
Spamming. There's some people that are, you can be a spammer and you can not even know it.
And so tell me what that means.
Well, if you're publishing the exact same information to 50 Facebook groups, you're probably a spammer.
I see. Okay.
You want to customize your content to the audience.
Right.
If you're creating unique messages that are going to target the people you want to target on the networks that you're wanting to get them on, then you're content marketing. If you're just mass sending out the same stuff all over the internet, you're probably spamming.
So be careful about that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's not a good practice to get into. I mean, I can understand why it happens because we're all so busy, but yeah, I actually even disconnected it. When I first started, I had my posts automatically go to Facebook, or I had everything I posted on my Facebook group page would go to Twitter, and I just reached the point where I realized that I don't think that's a good idea. I'm not doing that anymore.
It's not always the most effective route to take. People can kind of see right through that kind of content marketing, and I think you want to try to be as helpful as possible to your audience, and crafting unique messages that are going to get their attention and be helpful to them is probably the best way to go about that. And it might take a little more time, but it's going to produce way better results in the long term.
And just to clarify, another thing I love about CoSchedule, and I hate to sound like I'm on the cheerleading squad, but it is a really good tool. And that is when you create your. Oh, sorry. Did you hear that?
I did.
That's too funny. One thing that I really like about CoSchedule is that when you're in the background, like you've got this post and you're planning out how it's going to get shared. You can actually change the message on each of those posts. So I can actually share that guacamole to Facebook. I can send it to both my Facebook personal and Facebook group. I can send it to Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Plus, and I can get that all scheduled. And then I can go in and individually with each of those and change the message that goes along with it.
Yes, definitely. There's different hashtags that you want to use for different networks. Slightly longer form sometimes does better on certain social networks. It's really easy to go in and craft one time for your general message, and then go into the individual posts and kind of tweak them a little bit to suit the network.
Yeah. Just kind of create one generic one and then go in and individualize the ones that, I could actually even choose a different picture for each one. Like Twitter does maybe better with a little horizontal picture.
You can, yes.
Yeah. So that's excellent. And then you can also schedule them for 30 days out. You can do all of that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love our social queue because you can set up months worth of social media marketing posts for any specific blog post in one spot in not very much time at all.
Nicole, let's talk for a second about your blog. Is there something that you started out doing that you're doing differently now that you wish you would have done differently from the beginning?
That's a really great question. It's just been a continual learning process. I think when I first started out, it was really just a hobby. So I was just doing what I wanted to do. And slowly, photography started to become a really big interest and a passion of mine. So I worked really hard to improve on that. And I'm still trying to improve on that. And then I started getting really interested in the graphics aspect. So I've worked really hard in making great shareable graphics for my images and for my blogs. So I think if you're always just trying to get better and you surround yourself with people that you admire, you're going to continue to grow. And if you love it, then it's just going to be something that kind of naturally happens and you're going to want to work harder at.
That's great. Do you have any favorite tool you use for creating graphics?
I love Canva a lot.
Yes.
And I also really love Photor, which is not very commonly used, but I think it's the easiest for creating stitched vertical collages for Pinterest.
In other words, those collages where there's different photos, one on top of the other, and
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you introduced me to Photor. I've played around with it, and you're right. It is a pretty intuitive tool. It's easy to use.
Yeah, I think some of the graphics programs, it's harder than it needs to be to just stick one picture on top of another.
Yeah. I also like that it has a lot of different fonts, too.
Yeah, that's definitely a time saver when they're built right into the app.
Yeah. Do you have a specific social media platform that's really helped you grow your audience?
I think it's been Pinterest by far. I
Yeah.
think that's pretty much across the board. I tried to do food blogging for the first 3 years without social media, really, without
Wow.
devoting any time to it, and without kind of finding a blogger group. I kind of was just in a little bubble
Yeah.
and did it by myself, and it didn't work very well. Like, I was producing content, but nobody saw it because I wasn't putting it out there. So
Right.
once I really started to get involved in trying to actively grow my social media following and getting involved in the blogging community, things have been growing pretty quickly.
That's great. So what's your favorite tip for getting involved with, because that's not always, if you're working from home or you feel isolated from other people, it's not always easy to figure out how to get involved with others.
I think putting yourself out there and getting into some Facebook groups and attending blogging conferences is very helpful. Once you meet face to face with someone, it's easier to form that connection and want to work with them in other areas.
Yeah, that's great. And those Facebook groups are really helpful in the meantime until, if you've got, I think people should plan to go to at least one conference a year. I really do.
I agree.
Because there's nothing like that face-to-face, like you say, meeting somebody, you find out that they're this real person. And
It's nice to have a tribe. Your family can only take so much blogging talk, or my family can at least. They're very good about it, but it's kind of a unique thing to be so heavily involved in, and not very many people really know the ins and outs of it.
I just have to ask you this. What's your favorite social media platform right now?
Pinterest.
Great. Pinterest. I like Pinterest as well. It's so easy to use.
It is. It's great. And it brings the vast, vast majority of traffic to my site. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Any tips on how you use it?
I try to really make the best images I can and make my graphics really stand out so they're as shareable as possible.
Yes, shareable content on Pinterest is really the trick.
It is, for sure.
And then, of course, getting it out there on Pinterest is helpful too, so that it's, I think being a part of group boards can be very helpful for that.
I do as well. I got involved with a lot of group boards right when they came out, and I need to go through and kind of pare down my boards. Pinterest board organizing is not high on my to-do list, but it's something that I need to do soon.
I know, it's so true, but it's really hard to get off of a board. It seems like I've tried to do that as well, and it's like, I don't know, I always worry, like, maybe I'm not into that right now, but what if I am tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes. Pinterest and my closet have a lot in common.
I am a photo hoarder myself. I cannot delete a picture of my kids, to save my life.
Do you store, you have like an external hard drive, or what do you do?
I have 2 external hard drives.
I had to get one for my photos. My poor computer couldn't even back up because I had so many, food photos on there. So, yeah.
Yes, raw pictures take up so much space. And I have been horrible about deleting, the throwaway ones, the out of focus, the bad framing, the horrible lighting. I have not been deleting those. So I've got a lot of photos that I could spend probably weeks going through.
There is a whole workflow to photographs in general. It's like, that's probably, we should save that for another podcast episode.
Yes, that's one of the biggest tips I would give to bloggers starting out is be ruthless about organizing your photos and getting rid of the ones you don't need.
Just start the practice now, because that way it won't be like a freight train and just take over.
Yeah, don't ask me to try to find a photo from the first 2 years of my blog, because the names and the organization, it's they could be anywhere.
Yeah, you raise a very good point. That is one thing I do fairly well, and that is for each recipe, I create a file, and the name of that, we'll just stick with that guacamole. So that guacamole, all the photos, anything I have related to that goes in that file, and that way, when I reach the point, I can just grab that file and put it in an external hard drive.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I wish I would have implemented that 3 years before that I did.
Yeah, and let me explain why that's helpful, because I'm not the only one. A lot of people get requests from somebody. I can't think magazines. I've had people who are just doing a blog. I got a request from a blog in Canada. It's like an online magazine, and they wanted a high-res version of an old photo. I was sweating because, of course you want to be a part of that. And then
Yeah.
luckily I was able to find it. So it helped to have those file names like that.
Yeah, that definitely helps. So you can just search for it.
Yes, exactly. Now there are some, depends. If you go past like 2012, then I'm in trouble. But up until that point, I'm good. Anything coming up next for you that you can share with us?
Just keeping on, keeping on.
That's
I'm
good.
excited to be where I am and going to be going to a conference or two this year. And I'm
Yay.
happy to meet everybody. So come on over and say hi if you see me.
That's great. Can you tell the ones that you're going to, or are you still figuring it out?
I'm going to Eat Right Retreat in June in
Oh, that's
Chicago.
good. Yeah, that's a good one.
And I'm not sure what else yet. I'm trying to get some more on the calendar, but we shall see.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to put a plug in and beg you to go to Chopped Conference in October.
I have been looking into that. It looks
Excellent.
like that would be an awesome one.
Yes, well, we'll have more information coming about. Well, actually, by the time this is aired, we'll have the tickets on sale and all the information. So
Great.
yeah. Okay, so a few fun questions here at the end of the interview. What's one food item you can't live without?
Pasta or pretty much carbs of any kind.
You can't go wrong with carbs.
Yeah.
Unless you're on the South Beach diet.
I know, right? I just couldn't.
I really don't know how people do that. I admire people who do those kinds of things, but it's not in me. Any particular pasta that you like the most?
Not really.
You like it all?
A big sucker for like spaghetti with a really great meat sauce or marinara with meatballs.
Okay, my very favorite pasta is angel hair pasta. I just love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
I don't know the name of it offhand, but I like the spaghetti with the hole in the middle, all the way through bucatini. It might be
Manicotti, the big hole, or the
nope, they're like
a
spaghetti
penne,
sized.
like the penne pasta, or
Nope, it's long, it's like
oh,
spaghetti shaped noodles, but there's a little hole running through the middle of it.
Cool.
It's kind of hard to find.
It sounds like it must be something only in your neck of the woods. No, I'm kidding. Okay, what's the favorite app on your phone?
Oh man, probably Audible. I listen to a lot of audiobooks while I'm cleaning, while I'm cooking, while I'm working. Sometimes I listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts.
I love Audible as well. They have everything, not just novels but it also has like Spanish instruction. It's really cool.
Yeah, there's so much you can get on there, and it's been great. I don't have very much time to actually read physical books, so that's where I get my reading in.
Me too. I'm in a book reading club, and I feel terrible that I never have time to read a novel, and that's what they always read is novels, and so that's why I get it in is through Audible.
Yeah, it's a tie right now. It's either Audible or Jelly Splash.
What's Jelly Splash?
It's a game.
Oh, okay. I haven't even heard of it.
Don't even get
Don't
yourself
go there.
started.
Okay, I'm not even going to ask any more questions about it. I don't want to know.
So fun.
It's like a virus, huh?
It's addictive.
Do you have any time for TV at all? And if so, what's your favorite show?
Oh, wow. I have actually time for TV. I sometimes watch in the background. I don't
Me too.
really look at things very often, but we're huge Walking Dead fans. My husband and I love that show. It's probably our favorite right now.
Anything else that you watch?
Not that I would admit to.
Because it's trash TV?
A little bit. I kind of watch a little bit of everything.
Okay, how about this? Coffee or tea?
Coffee all day.
All day long, huh? That's good. So any particular kind of coffee you like or all of it?
I am kind of, I'm near Seattle, so we're kind of...
you're the coffee mecca.
Coffee snobs a little bit.
Yes, so you're probably drinking good stuff.
Yeah, I like good coffee, really strong, but I doctor it up a lot with lots of cream and sugar. So some people would say I'm not even a real coffee drinker, but too bad.
That's their problem. Someone's always going to say something. You can't worry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, Nicole, how can people find you online?
You can find me at or whatever you do on Twitter, on Pinterest, on Facebook. You can search or whatever you do, or at the website on www.orwhateveryoudo.com.
Great. And if people have questions about CoSchedule, can they reach out to you at that site as well?
Absolutely. The support at CoSchedule.com is the best way to reach us. And we're also on Twitter at CoSchedule.
Nicole, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Thanks to Nicole Johnson for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. If you were out running around and couldn't write down something important, don't worry, we took the notes for you. Just head on over to choppedcon.com, where I put up links for each show, including the stuff we talked about today and more information about our guests. I hope you're loving the Chopped Podcast. If so, it would mean the world to me if you'd head over to iTunes or Stitcher and give it a review. You can do that right now. Also, you can spread the word about the Chopped Podcast using @ChoppedCon on Twitter or Instagram, or even Facebook. Your shout-outs really mean a lot. You know, you inspire me, so I hope today's show is helpful and inspirational to you as well. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great week.